took Sunday off because I just got too tired and didn't want to stay on and be up later than I wanted. So um, postponed till today, and I'm back with the religious debates. It hasn't ended yet. I think I'll end it this week, but I'm gonna keep it going for the week, unless I change my mind or think of something better. But until then, there's still plenty of uh, think topics within the religious debates that I'm having or discussions rather. So let's continue in that vein, if you don't mind. Um, I'm gonna put on my glasses. Um, and so I'm back to religious debates again. And what is this? Uh, put this aside. All right, that's better. So again, back to the religious debates, and this one is going to be a little different. This one, the question is, would the world be better off without religion? Uh, Short answer, no. So we can all go home. End of the discussion. We solved it, guys. We're good. No, I'm I'm joking. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But if I had to go, if for some reason I had to take it to the wall and give a hard definitive answer, I would simply say no. No, the world wouldn't be better off without religion. If and only if, again, I had to take it to the wall for a short definitive answer. However, I don't have to take it to the wall. And I don't have to give some pithy definitive answer that goes one way or the other. So I can use nuance here, which is what I always do. And I want to say, uh, it depends. Okay, it depends. Um, Obviously, religion has played a role in some of history's biggest wars. Um, but I think blank. I think putting it all on religion is making a bit of a scapegoat of religious faith. On top of that, too I think too many I think too many atheists and agnostics like myself have have just easily decided, well, if there wasn't religion, then the world would be better off. And I don't really agree with that. Although I am an atheist, like many of my peers, and many of my intellectual peers, that is, I don't agree with that. I don't I don't agree with that view that a world without religion would be better off. For one, there is a positive relationship um, between the countries that are uh, a part of Christendom, that are Christian centric nations, like you know the U.S., the U.K., Canada, Australia, New Zealand. The countries that have, at least historically, maybe not so much today, but at least the countries that have historically held Christian views have been better off than non-Western um, non-Western nations, particularly non-Christian nations. And again, yes, there are confounding variables involved with that. I mean, we can tease that all apart if people are that interested, but I haven't really seen anyone in the chat room actually say anything on the matter. I'm just getting people saying hi a million fucking times as if yeah, what is the point? But anyway, um, yes, I do use strong language. You don't like it, but yeah. Um, Again, I don't agree with some of my friends or colleagues who are atheists themselves, who are very self-convinced that if most people were atheists, then we would have less violence and so forth, and that many of the wars in history, whether in antiquity or the Middle Ages, or during the Renaissance and Enlightenment, um, or contemporary times now, that many of these would be many of these wars and conflicts would be um, ameliorated through a lack of religious faith. And I'm not sure if I agree. Edward Wilson Seifert says, "Born to shit, I'm gone." Okay, go. I'm sure you would be more excited sucking a dick like you normally do, Edward Wall Seifert 6125, because obviously that gives you way more stimulation than the dopamine rush having semen shot up your throat than having someone discuss something. I really don't give a fuck. You're not putting any money in my pocket. You're not putting any money on my Cash App. You're not putting any money here on my super chat. So I don't give a fuck. Go suck a dick and jump off a cliff. I don't care. I mean, your mother was a good dick sucker, so I'm pretty sure you are as well. Go have fun with that. If you felt this was boring, you could have always contributed to the discussion. He said, "Why are you salty?" Because I'm Gen X. I can say what the fuck I want. I'm the host of this live stream, so I can say whatever the fuck I want, Brandon. If you got a problem with that, go check your little faggot Gen Z ass somewhere else. I'm Gen X. I don't give a fuck about your feelings. Why are you salty? Nigga, go take your little effeminate, saggy, faggy, fucking dumbass somewhere else, bitch. Punk ass, soft ass, Gen Z, retarded, faggot, low IQ, low testosterone motherfucker. So, but why are you so salty? Nigga, take your soft ass somewhere else, bitch. I'm not mad. That's the funny thing about it, bro. I'm not mad because I'm Gen X. We roast people for fun. You don't know anything about Gen X. You're obviously some little Gen Z faggot. Because if you knew anything about Gen X, people born between 1965 and 1980, we literally just roasted people for fun. So I'm not bad. And you obviously don't know behavioral research because if you looked at the visual cues from my face, there's nothing on my face showing the visual cues of anger. Dude, I'm literally laughing. You're just lame. You're a lame Gen Z faggot who can't roast me back. So you gotta try to use this whole "oh you're mad" type shit. Dude, that's like 12-year-old reverse psychology. Take that shit back to eighth grade. How am I about to crash out? I'm literally here chilling, drinking water. I'm getting paid for this. You're not. You're literally on my live stream talking about you're mad while I'm getting paid to do this. So who's really mad, bro? Go take your little Gen Z faggot ass somewhere else. You literally don't know the definition of crashing out. So I'm gonna let you go take a time out and suck a big black dick like you're used to doing, and have a good day. Peace out. Anywho, How, like this is crazy saying I'm mad. I'm literally having fun. He was trying so hard to get a rise out of me so then he could just say I'm mad instead of confronting the fact that he's corny. He came on someone's live stream talking junk, and then when I fried his ass, he had nothing to say about it but oh you're mad. You can literally say that about anything. Like you can literally have any criticism of someone and then just say oh you must be mad. Like really? I cuss all the time. I'm a veteran. Army vets, we tend to have we military folks tend to have a dark sense of humor. I don't know if people realize that. And not only that, again, like I said, I'm Gen X, so anyone who's from the Gen X era, or even if you're like an elder millennial, you grew up in an era where people would just crack jokes on each other for no reason. They could be bored, or they just, or they're friends, so they just roasting each other. Like people don't, because people don't have the verbal acuity that we grew up with. Like you had to be fast with your words. So I can literally just like this. I have roasted so many people in this live stream. It's ridiculous. I can't even count the number of folks. But someone comes onto your channel and troll you, you fire back at them, so they don't have any comeback to you. So all they're gonna say is, "Oh, you must be mad." Word, okay, player. Like that is so eighth. Like that is like eighth grade retort for real, for real. And why would I be mad? I run 7 miles every day at 4:30 in the morning, then do my shadow boxing, continue go on with my day, and then may hit the gym or just do calisthenics later that evening. I'm pretty fantastic. And I don't need pre-workout to do all of that. Although I do drink coffee, which helps. Justin Clark 4154 says born in 85. I feel more Gen X than millennial. Um, so Gen X technically ends at 1980, but so there's a hybrid generation between Gen X and millennial. I actually did a whole live stream on this before. Uh, they're called Zennials, basically people but from 1977 to 1983, although some people say it's from 1976 to 1985. Basically, they are the Star Wars generation because from 77 to 83, and then you can extend that from to 85. From 77 to 85 was when the Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy came out, along with the other Star Wars content, like the the two made for TV Ewok movies, which were horrible. But as a kid, I couldn't get enough of the Ewoks. So they were the two Ewoks movies, direct, made for TV. Then there was the Droids cartoon Saturday morning cartoon series, followed by the Ewoks cartoon series. They both last, I think, like 2 seasons. Um, then also that's when the Star Wars expanded universe content came out with the novels. Um, there was like novels, then there was like uh, the comic books, because Marvel originally had the franchise. I mean, excuse me, Marvel Comics originally had the license for the Star Wars comics. So I have a facsimile reprint of the very first Star Wars Marvel comic book. It's not worth anything because it's a facsimile reprint, so you can put your guns down, guys. um, then it went to Dark Horse. Then they lost the license. Then the license went to Dark Horse, and actually Dark Horse had the best Star Wars comics, arguably, um, as far as like the inventiveness, and it would coincide with some of the novels. Uh, and then also, of course, there was like all the all the merch, and that ended around 1985. So that whole generation between 1977 and 1985 was again called these the Zennials generation, which were people who were either very late Gen X or very early millennials who culturally were more similar than they were to the larger cultural generations, Gen X or millennial. And again, like I said, they were also called the Star Wars generation because that whole timeline aligned with the Star Wars trilogy and then the other Star Wars stuff that came out right after Return of the Jedi. See, and people thought I was mad. Uh, Going Ghost Dash C2W says my father's born in 1980. So yeah, he was the last Gen X. So he was a Zennial like me. I was 77. So I was the first of the Zennials. So yeah, he and I'm of course Gen X. Technically, I'm Gen X since 1977. But again, I also fall into that hybrid generation, the Zennials from 77 to 83 or 85. Um, so your father's Gen X. Sound like he's a good guy. I guarantee he has a very cynical sense of humor. Um, Gage says, "Thank you for your service." No, thank you. Appreciate it. Comp Sideshow says, "Our country did get too politically correct in the last 20 years for sure. Definitely." It. I noticed it right around like 2015, 2016, like when that Ghostbusters reboot came out. It wasn't even a reboot, and it wasn't even a sequel. It was called a requel. I've look, I've ranted on this before, but that was like the start of all this like super woke, super feminist, super LGBTQ shit all rolled up in one when they started when Hollywood started this whole cynical marketing strategy called fan baiting. And it started with the Ghostbusters requel. Not exactly a not exactly a reboot, not exactly a sequel. It's a requel. It's a little bit of both, which does simply stupid. Doesn't make sense. But they started fan baiting the original fan base, and it's like only Hollywood do they have the gall to insult their consumers. No, and in no other market can you insult your consumers and expect them to keep buying your product or service. Although boomers did try. So remember when boomers were going hard in the paint with the millennials? Um, and that's because they didn't know what millennials were. It's just that anyone who was younger than them they called millennials. They were calling Gen X millennials. My father called me a millennial once. I'm like, Dad, I'm not a fucking millennial. I was born in '77. um but in any case, um my point my point being is that boomers were trying to blame millennials for a lot of the products that they enjoyed no longer being on the shelves or being discontinued. I'm like, how you going to blame them? Like, they're not obligated to buy this merch just because you like it. If you like it so much, you support that company so that they can keep producing that product or service that you like. Like you were saying, oh, a lot of people producing napkins are just going to paper towels now because millennials don't like using napkins. So the fuck what? Like, first of all, paper towels are better anyway because they're multi-use and they have more, like, they're stronger and more absorbent than napkins. On top of that, if you go to the Philippines, don't if you need a napkin, don't ask for a napkin. The reason why, and I'm gonna get back to the actual topic of this debate in a second, but the reason you don't ask for a napkin in the Philippines, if you need a napkin when you're at a restaurant, is because napkin for them means a sanitary device for women. So if you actually want a like a napkin, for your face, you say, "May I have a tissue?" And that's what they mean. That's what they would say for a napkin. But if you ask for a napkin, they're gonna look at you funny at the restaurant. They're like, okay. But anyway, we're moving on. I am going to get into the actual gist of this, the actual crux of this topic. Justin Clark 4154 says, "If I like you, I'll roast you. If I don't talk to you, I don't like you." Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, it went. But the funny the funny thing was, it went either way back in the day. Like if you if you rocked with someone, you guys might just roast each other for fun. But if you didn't rock with someone, you would roast them as well because you're trying to make them look bad in front of others. Like, yo, I know, yo. Let me give you an example. Like, yo, I know you ain't talking. Oh, I know you ain't talking with them little fake ass Jordans on with them pro wings. Like, where you get them from? Amvet, nigga. Like, that's not a swoosh. That's a swash. Like, what the yo, what, yo, he ain't even got no air bubble on his Nike, son. What's that? What's that? Ain't a yo, that's ain't a fucking air bubble, son. That's that's some fucking that's a Ziploc bag. Like yo, you have someone ready to like straight up fight you, or we would just have we would just have a cracking jokes contest. You know what I'm saying? Like just like you would see people doing a rap cipher. Sometimes it was just like a cracking jokes type contest where people just sitting around a circle, just going at it. And like I said, you were friends and you would just go at it in class, like for no reason, like just being stupid. Like you just sit there in class and you, you get bored. Be like, yo, what's up that Rango ass t-shirt, son? Oh shit, son. Don't tell me your mom ain't iron your clothes for you. Yeah, it was it was brutal. Just want to say I wasn't mad what dude was talking about. Cause if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you had to have tougher skin than people do here. But Gen Z is so, and I know not all of, because I know some of you are Gen Z, not all of you are like that. I get it. I know not all of you. So when I say Gen Z, I'm just saying generally. I'm not saying each and every single one of you, because I know some of you actually are pretty good dudes out there. But generally speaking, a lot of you are freaking soft, and you don't have the tough skin that we had. I mean, literally the tough skin, because we not only did we like, or were we not only were we continuously rude to each other just for fun, but we also got into a lot of bruises and scrapes, and we often got into school fights for no reason. Like if someone just didn't like you, they might just punch you off the top just for no reason. I'm not even joking. Or or you tried to roast the wrong person and they got back to them. Like, oh, I heard you was talking shit. I heard you, yo, oh yeah, I heard, yo, I heard doing doing class, you was talking shit about me, huh? Yeah, all right. I'm gonna see you at 3. I'm gonna see you at 3 o'clock. I'm gonna see you at 3 o'clock. Don't even try to run either. If you run, we're gonna catch your ass and we're gonna beat the fuck out of you. Like this, y'all don't know what it was like back then. That's why we laugh when we hear about cyberbullying and shit, because we had to deal with real bullying. People would take your lunch money. They would step on your kicks for no reason. Step on your sneakers. Um, Look, they would take your fucking shoes. Like if you lived in certain areas, it was hazardous for you to actually rock expensive clothes like a starter jacket. You better not. You better be about that life if you had a starter jacket in the hood, or if you were gonna rock those Jordans, because you would get robbed. And I dare you to do something about it. So we had to have a tough skin as far as like being able to take insults, and you had to have a tough skin about you know catching a fade. Gage is, yeah, he coming in here saying you salty, then saying you mad. Yeah, I know. Like that was literally his intro. Was you salty? Big Sriracha said, "Did you just call an eighth grader retarded blood?" First of all, I'm not blood. I'm not in the life, bro. I'm not in the life, my, my bro. The only red I know is University of Maryland. Okay, that's that's the only red I rock. I'm not. So I'm not in the life, brother. But I wasn't saying he was an eighth grader. No, I'm sorry. I wasn't. He wasn't an eighth grader. I was saying he wasn't. He was acting like a retarded eighth grader. That's the difference. um, this is fun. Um, Justin Clark says, "Yeah, they have nothing, so you're mad." Is there? I win. Go to. Yeah, I know. It's that reverse psychology. That's why I was saying he was acting like an eighth grader because I was like, that's like eighth grader reverse psychology. Like that's going to really work. And it's like you could clearly see no clearly. Look, let me take the glasses off. You clearly see there was no visual signs of anger on my face. Kingston says, "Unc, what's up?" He said, "Back in my days, yeah. I mean, I know it's that whole back in the days thing, but how else am I going to phrase it? I mean, however I phrase it is always going to fit that back in the days perspective, right? I can't say it was yesterday. uh, how did I say this? I want to butcher your name. Is it Renee Ildiz or is it Reina Yildiz? I'm not sure where to parse the name, but they say good morning. Well, it's evening here, but thank you. Good morning to you. Yeah, he says Kingston, shut your rusty, dusty, crusty butt up. Bars. Oh, he said, do you like Turkey? I haven't been there, but the women are beautiful. Uh, there's a lot of Turkish folks in Germany when I was there back during my army days. Unfortunately, the guys used to protect the women like they were the most precious thing on earth, which is what their men are supposed to do, obviously. But damn, they were cock blocking, and those women were beautiful. There's a beautiful Turkish woman here on YouTube. Her name is Soraya Brooks. She's also on Instagram. Go check her out. You would not think she's in her 40s. She is gorgeous. Um, I've chatted with her a bit on IG. Maybe one day she'll let me do some content with her or something. I don't know. Maybe I have to go to Germany first. I don't know. But no, no, I don't. Have to, I mean, maybe like just do like a YouTube interview here. We don't have to actually be in the same location. But I haven't been to Turkey. Like I said, I've met a few Turkish. Well, I've come across a lot of Turkish people in Germany, and I had a Turkish roommate in college when I was living in the frat house. We were both boarders in this frat, and they actually offered me a bid to join them. I turned them down. Which in hindsight, I wish I did join them. The only reason I didn't was because I was going to join a Black Greek lettered organization at the time, and then I ended up not going with them either. I ended up actually co-founding a multicultural fraternity with some other good fellows. Um, but yeah, I had a Turkish roommate. He was cool as shit. But I haven't been to the country, so I don't have any perspective on whether I like it or dislike it. Gage says Kingston trying to flex the amount of days he hasn't showered. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's a good roast. And that's the other thing I always tell people is like, hey, if you roast me and it's funny, I'm not gonna ban you. I'm not gonna roast you. I'm gonna laugh. Like I've said that for years. Like if someone comes, sorry, I'm closing the blinds. It's getting dark. But I've said that for years since I've been doing this. Like, hey, if someone comes in the chat room and they roast me, but it's funny, yeah, I'm gonna rock with it because at the end of the day, it's all about whether it's funny or not. And if it's not funny, sorry, but if it's not funny and it's just mean spirited, then I'm gonna go ahead and roast you or go ahead and throw the ban hammer on you if one of my moderators don't. All right. Um, I love VGSTFN says you're very handsome. Well, appreciate it. Thank you. Wolf Fails is I'm not sure what you're saying, but um, if you have issues with your sexual orientation, uh, that's on you. Again, I don't give free. I no longer give free therapeutic or psychological advice anymore because I did that a few years ago with someone and he never dropped me a super chat as an appreciation, even though he came back to my channel several times and told others how the advice I gave him actually helped them. So I'll no longer do that for free because the dude could have dropped a few dollars in my super chat just to say, "Here you go, bro. I know you like coffee. Go ahead and have that next coffee on me." Or I know you like your fruit snacks. That's a something. Those are two things you'll always hear me talking about on my live streams: my love for iced coffee and my love for fruit snacks. So the reason being is not that I'm being petty, but the dude was literally a self-proclaimed millionaire. Whether he was telling the truth or not, I don't know. But the whole point of the advice I gave to him was that his girl had broken up with him. She was apparently his first love, or or at least like I don't. I think she was his first love, but if not, she was like someone very dear to him and had a serious relationship with. He thought was going to go the mile, and she broke up with him because he decided to sell his business or something of the sort, and he made a short windfall off of selling his business or whatever it was. But she thought it was short sighted and left him because of it. Again, he might have been lying. I don't know. You don't know what people are saying behind the anonymity of these screens. Even the content creators, a lot of the content creators lie as well. But I don't, by the way, unless I'm getting paid to. I haven't been paid to lie to you guys yet, so I have not lied about anything in any of my streams for the past 3 years. Anywho, um, again, he was a self-proclaimed millionaire who claimed that he made a short windfall off of selling a business to which his longtime girlfriend protested and broke up with him because she thought he lacked vision or whatever. And he was very depressed about it. I told him forget about her, hit the gym, build yourself up, you'll find someone else, and with the success that you have, girls will be coming after you. And he said he started hitting the gym, he got his confidence back, and he started seeing other women just like I predicted. And he told others in the chat room, several times about this, which is cool. But I mean, if he wanted to show his appreciation, he could have just dropped a super chat, even if it was like $5, just to say, "Hey, bro, here you go. I respect that. Thank you for that help." So I don't no longer give any free psychological or therapeutic advice. Um, you have to drop a super chat. Gage says I gotta go. Sorry, no problem. Have a good one, bro. Thanks for thanks for being here. Macy says, "Hello, good sir. What's up?" The show of life 1075 says we are not dumb in Gen Z. Well, that's not what I said. Don't make a straw man of what I said. What I said is so. All right, let me be a little bit nerdy for a second. I already look it because I got the shades on, right? I mean the glasses, but let me be a little bit nerdy here. Um, Let me be a little. I don't like to flex my degrees, but there are several on that wall. But anyway, I just don't show them anymore because people try to dox you, and I feel like I don't have to try so hard to prove my knowledge if people can accept it or not. Anywho, so in the history of standardized testing, particularly with IQ tests, there was a thing known as the Flynn effect from the psychological researcher James R. Flynn. He still does talks today. I think he did a few TED talks. What he discovered was within 100 years of IQ testing that each generation got better at doing the previous IQ test. So they had to keep renormalizing the test. Renormalizing meaning it IQ, like many other psychological traits and physical traits, can be distributed can fall on a normal distribution curve, which is a statistical graph showing that with these sorts of physical and psychological traits, that most people fall in the middle and not in extremes. Whereas there are certain things that are not normally distributed, like wealth. For instance, wealth is not equally distributed in society, obviously. Um, but things like intelligence are, um, personality, health, height, weight, these sorts of things. Anywho, um, the IQ test is a positive, strong positive correlation to general intelligence, which is basically uh, a psychological trait um, a, that that is akin to our intellect. Excuse me, our analytical reasoning and systematic thinking, right? In both, particularly in verbal and mathematical abilities. Um, so as each generation did testing for this, it seemed that each generation was getting smarter because they were doing better on the test than the previous generation. But what the Flynn effect actually showed was that as society became more heavily reliant on people who used analytical skills and systematic thinking in academics and in their career choices, they became better at testing for those abilities on these tests. So they would renormalize it for each generation. Otherwise, each generation would show like would be like would look like they were geniuses compared to the previous generation. And that went on for about 100 years, up until um, the late '90s, 2000s, where it started to plateau or reach an asymptote. Asymptote is just a fancy way of saying um, you reach the point where you don't get any higher return, right? It plateaus. That happened around the late '90s, early 2000s. But what was more surprising is that instead of it just plateauing, it reversed. It went down, showing. And this didn't mean that Gen Z was dumber because they had a lower IQ scores than the previous generations. What it was showing is that they had a lack of analytical reasoning and systematic thinking that was more prevalent in the previous generations. And it's kind of showing in how society is going now. We see we see college students with lower IQ scores. We see them um, displaying uh, less intellectual. Um, how do I put it? Less intellectual flexibility. We often see them taking a bunch of meaningless degrees like gender studies. And so I'm not saying that Gen Z is dumb per se, although some of you are. But what I'm saying is, you guys do have a lower IQ than the previous generations because, as I said, once we hit the late '90s, early 2000s, where IQ stopped climbing up each successful generation, but actually went down. That's called the reverse Flynn effect, where people are now doing are reporting poorer IQ scores than the previous generation, whereas each previous generation before Gen Z was going higher. You guys are going lower. So that's just a fact. It is a psychological fact. It doesn't necessarily mean you're dumber, but it just means that you guys aren't very good in analytical reasoning or critical thinking. Sorry. Macy says, I wish you have a very well afternoon. Thank you. Someone says, are you a guy? No, I'm your mother, bitch. Anyway, Noodle, the goat says, Jesus loves you. So that reminds me to get back into the crux of this discussion, which is a religious debate. Shadow One VS All says it is what it was back in the day. So again, so the topic is, even though we had that 40-minute diversion, would we be better off without religion? Will we have had these these barbaric wars of the past without religion? Could we have avoided the Holocaust? Could we have avoided the Reformation? Could we have avoided um, the 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 witch hunts? Um, the, all the brutal things that happen in the name of religion, would they have not have happened if there were not religion? And like I said, my short, pithy answer to that would be no. Those things would have still happened anyway. But let's get into it a little bit. All right. The reason I say no, that those things will likely still have happened anyway, is again because I'm digging into my little psychological bag of tricks here, and I'm pulling up a phenomenon called tribalism. Tribalism is manifest in many forms because it's a part of the human condition. It can be, I mean, it can be displayed through racism, misogyny, misandry, um, homophobia, um, xenophobia, jingoism, uh, religious intolerance, and other forms. It's all about in group bias, which is the more technical term, in group bias. You're more you you feel more akin to people who are more like you, and you feel the people who are not like you are outsiders. And sometimes that outlook of seeing people as not like you creates uh creates a bit of hostility towards them, even to the point where you can dehumanize those people because they're not like you. That's tribalism. It is something left over from uh, our ape ancestors. We get tribalism from our ape ancestors. I know some people aren't comfortable with that for religious reasons, but we don't, even if we don't even have to go into the, we don't have to go into evolutionary psychology per se with this just to know that tribalism is a part of the human condition. whether you want to accept it because of its evolutionary roots or just look at it in its current context. Okay. Um, and I don't think removing religion is going to get rid of what you know what became of well the religious wars. I believe would have still happened under a different guise than religion. Religion is simply a tool. I don't think that without religion that we wouldn't have had like the 7 Years Wars and the Reformation, the Crusades, and all that other sort of stuff. The Crusades, was it really about religion or was it about conquest? It was, yeah, it was partly about religion, but it was a lot about conquest as well. Don't at least I can't talk about all the Crusades because I think it was like 4 or 5 of them. But at least I can say during the first Crusade, what, what happened was the Holy Roman Empire, even though that was just nominally what it was, because there was nothing holy nor Roman nor imperial about Europe at that time, medieval Europe. But um, look, the Pope off like offered an edict saying, "Look, we got to defend the Holy Land." Uh, at the time, the Islamic conquest was taking over all of North Africa, the Middle East, parts of Central Asia, parts of Southern Europe, and it was like the the Pope was basically like, "Look, bro, we can't let them take the Holy Land. Look, they're taking everything. We can't let them have the freaking Holy Land. Like that's where our Savior was born. We can't let them have that." And so, out of you know, what was it really about the Holy Land, or was it about look, we need to save a part of this part of the world that that represents our values, our our cultural values. I I can't say with certainty, but I'm pretty sure something like the Crusades would still have happened even if religion wasn't around. It would have been it probably would have been based on um, ethnicity and ethnicity and the politics at the time. Which again, I do know the politics were inextricably linked to religion, but but let's say in a logically possible world without said religion, it would have been something else it was tied to because it it was obvious that these were different ethnic groups and different cultural groups going to war with each other. Okay, so I don't I think something very much like the Crusades still would have happened in that place in that time, even without religion. I think the European conquest of most of the world would have still happened without you know without Catholicism edging them on saying we need to save these savages and bring them to Christ. I think they would have still been going across the Atlantic and the Pacific um, for the natural resources that were becoming scarce in Europe, as well as land. Land was becoming scarce. Um, food sources were becoming scarce. Um, the riches like gold and silver were becoming scarce because they were all being hoarded by the top people, and those top people were fighting for it amongst each other. So what did the lower level elite have other than the resources to go claim it somewhere else? Uh, so I think again the European conquest of the world would have still happened, and there's a whole book about that uh, called "Gun Germs and Steel" by Jared Diamond. Go check that out. It's a great book. He uses biogeography and history to make a very convincing argument of how Europe conquered the world, and he does go into the whole Christian aspect of it, but again, religion was just used as a tool in the pursuit of that conquest. They would have still pursued that conquest without religion, without Christianity. The witch hunts, I think that still would have happened without religion, because the fact of the matter is that was used to control um, people, particularly women who who weren't who fell out of the social norms, or it was used by women vindictively against other women to keep them in their place. A lot of those accusations of witches and stuff like that came from other women being vindictive, because female violence is often social, not physical, and that was one way to keep other women in check, was to accuse them of things, sort of like they do today, but in a different way. Uh, Now, like some specific things probably obviously wouldn't have happened without religion, like the Reformation, the European Reformation and stuff like that. But other things would. Well, on top of that, we also got to we also got to acknowledge that not only would bad things have been avoided, but many good things would have not happened as well. For all the bad things we can talk, and this was the same discussion I had with some of my atheist friends as well. For all the things that we can say came out of bad things that came out of religion, we can't ignore a lot of the good things. Look at look at all the beautiful art, literature, architecture, uh, that came out of religion. Okay, music. A lot of those comp- classical composers were inspired by their faith. Is that like your shirt? Thank you. Negative 719. Um, look, or look at. I know a good example. My old professor, Doctor Odell, used to bring up. He was like, look at people like Doctor Martin Luther King, who was inspired by religion. He was like, obviously, Martin Luther King was a good man, so he probably would have still done good things even if it weren't for religion. But but it's obviously that his faith inspired him to do the things that he did in his life, as did as religious faith did for many other folks. On top of that, you've had scientists that were inspired by their faith. Even though Galileo Galilei uh, fell out with the church and was excommunicated, he was a religious person, at least on the face of it. So was Rene Descartes. Of course, Rene Descartes, seeing what happened to Galileo Galilei, he was a lot more compliant with the church. So much so that people don't even know where in his philosophy he was being disingenuous, or if he was being genuous about saying that there was three substances of the world, mind, body, and God. A lot of people think he just did that to you know supplicate the church. I don't know, so we won't never know. But um, he's not the only one. We had scholastic philosophers, like one I always mention, St. Thomas Aquinas. a brilliant man, even if his religious arguments were pretty poor. Uh, I think he still would have been a great philosopher even without religion, as were some of his other contemporaries during the scholastic era of philosophy. Um, I think a lot of the Eastern philosophers and monks, I think without religion, they would have still expressed some sort of mystical or spiritual side that people would have been able to get with. Like when you look at things, think of like Taoism or Confucianism, Shintoism, Zen Buddhism. I think these would have still existed in some form even without the religious aspects of it, because actually uh, one of the shining points of Eastern religion is the philosophical aspect of it, that you can get into those religions just purely on the philosophical aspects of them without the religious or supernatural aspects of it. Um, which also goes for the Hindu Vedic system or whatever it's called, which was like Indian philosophy. I think I think in those parts of the world, in the eastern side of the world, where philosophy and religion were often intrinsically tied, I think Eastern philosophy still would have existed without religion. But sometimes that faith inspires people, and I think religion is an important form of self-expression, like art or literature or music. And I think it is, I think it's short-sighted of non-religious people um, to to simply say the world would have been in a better state of affairs if there hadn't been for religion. Because as I said, even if you remove religion, you don't remove tribalism, a which is a which is a condition of human behavior. As long as tribalism still existed, we would have still had the same problems, just under a different guise than religion. Um, Again, like I said, I don't. I think something like I think the Crusades would have still happened even if it wasn't the warring between Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. I think that war for those countries, those lands, those resources, and for the people tied to those lands would have still have happened. Because of because people would have saw these conflicts as a zero sum game. So, and in many respects, it was a zero sum game. It was limited resources, limited land, limited people to do that, to labor for you, um, and so forth. And I think something very much like the Crusades would have happened just because of the nature of what was going on at the time. It may have not been called the Crusades; it might have been called something else, but it probably still would have happened. The Holocaust, I think something like that still would have happened in place of religion, because I mean, many Jews aren't even practicing, uh, don't even practice the faith, but uh, they're still a Jewish by their ancestry, because it's a ethno it's, Jewish folks are a ethno religious group, which means they're not. It's not just it's not just a cultural group. It's also um, an ethnicity as well, who practice a certain faith. um, but yes, there would have been changes. Some things would have been avoided without religion, but then, but again, if we're going to say some things wouldn't would have been avoided without religion, that would have been both good things and bad things, and that's my point. I don't think getting a religion would have gotten rid of all the violence and the suffering that is caused by tribalism, which is a again something passed on to us from our ancient ancestors that we've kept. Uh, human human behavior has not changed that much in the past 60,000 years. Um, Look, modern humans, and again, I'm going into evolutionary roots. If you don't believe that stuff, that's fine. You can ignore this part. But look, modern humans didn't come about to 200,000 years ago. That's modern anatomical humans. But psychologically, modern humans didn't come about to about 60,000 years ago. And we still, you know, kept many of our primate like behavior, such as the tribalism that we see amongst people today. When we see the baby monkey punch being ostracized by by the other little um, um, mac um, macaque monkeys, we feel that because it's something that we can relate to in human behavior because our human behavior comes from our primate ancestors. That sort of in group versus out group sort of thing. Luckily, Punch the monkey is now being accepted by some of the elders in his group, and so he's less reliant on his little stuff monkey mom. And I wish I could go to that zoo in Chiba, Japan. I think it's Izakawa, the Izakawa Zoo. If you've been there, uh, let me know in the comments. But in any case, uh, again, we could relate to seeing a poor baby monkey being ostracized by his group because it's something that is we see in human society as well. I mean, not people ostracizing a baby, of course, but we know that whole sort of we know social ostracization very all too well. Some of us deal with it today. The whole loneliness epidemic, which is kind of bullshit, but that's a topic for another day. Um, my point is that is going to exist with or without religion. Although religion, religion itself is a part of the human condition, which maybe you could say is separate from it, because there is a part of the brain that you can elicit that is responsible for um, certain thoughts and and attitudes towards religion and spirituality. Uh, I think in non-theistic people like myself, or atheists and agnostics or religious skeptics, that part of the brain is not uh, is not as active in us as it is in other people who are who veer towards more spirituality and mystical sort of thinking. A lot of us tend to have more excitation in the prefrontal cortex where we prioritize reasoning, thinking, and judgment. That's not to say that people who are spiritual and religious are less thoughtful or smart. Far from Far from it. I don't mean that at all. I'm saying that it seems that people who are non-religious or atheistic um, probably don't get the same excitation in that part of the brain that those folks do. Similar to like what I was saying a few months ago about the Super Bowl, that a lot of people like myself who don't get excited over sports um, don't get the same dopamine rush from watching sports games because because for us watching other people win doesn't do anything for us. For us, it's just like basking in the reflected glory of other people. Like it doesn't do anything for us to watch other people score touchdowns and win games and win championships. When at the end of the day, I'm not getting a check. I'm not clapping any cheeks because they won. I'm not moving into a bigger house because they won, unless I bet big on the game and won. But that's a gambling addiction. That's a whole different problem that you have then. But yeah, when the local team wins, my I'm still paying my taxes like anyone else. I'm not getting a paycheck because they won. I'm not clapping any cheeks because they won. I'm not getting a free meal because they won. So it doesn't really do anything for me. And watching it on TV is boring. And but that doesn't mean I hate sports. I love sports. I just don't like watching it. I find it boring. It doesn't do anything watching other people win. But similar to that, I'm using as an analogy to non-theistic people that they don't get the same excitation from religious practices that other people do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as I said, even if you did take religion out of the world, you're not going to take the suffering and pain and misery that has been brought about through years of certain religious practices and religious conflicts um, throughout the centuries, because where religion is removed, something else will just be in place of it, right? Like nationalism, jingoism, stuff like that. So anyway, that's I guess pretty much all I had to say about that. I'm going to grab something to eat because I'm hungry. I noticed as soon as I actually got into the crux of my topic, people dropped off. They were more excited to hear me roast people and talk talk a little recklessly about other things. But when I got into the meat and potatoes, a lot of people kind of dipped off, and that's fine. I'm gonna dip off too then, because my time is precious as well. So I'm out, guys. Have a good one. Um, if you're watching this broadcast on replay, you can leave comments, and I always respond to like thoughtful or funny comments. The retarded ones I just ignore. I'm just gonna be honest with you. But that's it for me. Peace out.